How you doing, Cole?
Dude, sorry, it's me. I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
What did you come to
All right,
argue?
all right. I am very pro-life, and I know you're not, so I just wanted to
All right.
argue about that. I just want to know what are your limitations on abortion, if you have any.
Sure. So, the way that I came to my conclusion is that I can see that what we care about in terms of a human life. Hold on. It says I'm only streaming my Google Chrome, not. Oh, let me um, let me stream the correct thing. Sorry about that. Hold on. Give me a moment. My fault. How's that? Um,
Very good.
yeah. So I look at things in terms of what we grant moral consideration. Because when we look at like humans, we don't necessarily give the same exact moral consideration between one human or another. For example, like a pedophile probably doesn't have as much moral consideration as a person who is perfectly innocent, right? We give less moral consideration for that person. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I'm also aware a fetus is not a pedophile. Relax. I'm just pointing out that we give things more or less moral consideration depending on the situation. So when we look at somebody who's brain dead, one thing that I like to look at is instances where you can pull the plug. You know, if a person is brain dead and it's basically going to be that pretty much for the rest of their life, you have to ask yourself, is it okay to terminate that person's life? What do you think?
I kind of reject your equivalency to the person who's not going to be getting better towards the end of their life. So if they're brain dead, if they had this serious, so let's say they had a big car accident, right? And they're brain dead, something went really bad with their brain, they're not going to get better. Everyone knows they're not going to get better. They're not going to be able to um uh live without um this so-called life support ever in their life again because they won't get better because they're brain dead. I don't think that's the same as a fetus because in
We're
nine
not. Well,
months
we're
they're
nowhere close there. We are several steps from there. I'm
all
asking
right.
you, a person. We're not talking about a fetus. We're nowhere close there yet. Okay. I'm asking if a person who is brain dead, do you think that it's okay to terminate something like that? Do we
And
grant
in
less
we
moral consideration to someone who's brain dead versus someone who is not brain dead?
do we know that they will not get better?
Yeah, we do a brain scan and we see two hollow holes where both of their hemispheres are. They're never getting better. This is never going to recover.
Um, then yes, I would say it's okay because they're just suffering at that point. I mean, there's no life in there. They're not going to
Well, they're
come out of that
technically
state.
alive. They're
They're
just
not going to
never
come out
going
of that
to
state.
leave that state. Yeah.
Yeah, then they're never going to leave that state. So essentially, they're sitting there suffering for the rest of their life.
All right,
If
cool.
they can't do anything, they're not capable of doing anything, then yeah.
Cool. So we agree. All right. So then the next question becomes if you extend that to the a person who has ended their life, right? Why would the same exact case not be the case for a prior, right? As in, they have not had the conscious experience before. Because to me, I'm like, that's basically, as far as I'm concerned, that's basically the same thing, morally speaking. And I understand that the action is not the same thing, literally, but I'm saying that morally, it's effectively the same thing. And so I came up with the criteria that you must have had a conscious experience before and will continue to have a conscious experience in the future. And that's what I consider to having worthy of moral consideration.
Well, once again, I'm gonna reject the equivalency of a brain dead person and someone who committed suicide, because a brain dead person doesn't have the capacity to live, right? A person who committed suicide made that choice
I'm not,
to.
no, no, I didn't. talk about somebody who's committing suicide. I'm saying did not have a conscious experience before, meaning prior to their inception, they didn't possess a conscious experience, right? And even as they're developing, they still do not have a conscious experience, right?
But
And
I
I
know you're
extend that
referring
on the
to.
basis of the death. So I'm not talking about suicide.
You're referring to a fetus who has not had a conscious experience beforehand, but has the possibility of a conscious experience,
Mhm.
right? A full on possibility of a conscious experience. So I don't. That's not the same as someone who will never have a conscious experience.
Sure, yeah. Well, you're making that argument. I'm saying morally speaking, it's not different.
Morally, like the two people, like who have not done
Yeah, the
the
one that's
fetus.
brain dead versus the one that has never had a conscious experience. It's basically the same thing.
No, because they have the possibility to have a conscious experience in the future, right?
Okay.
Whereas the brain dead person will never ever again have the conscious ability to have
So where would you
a
place the moral consideration? Like, at what
like
point
time.
can they not abort?
Um, Honestly, for me, I would say it's right at the beginning, and
Conception? So they no abortion,
yeah,
basically.
yep,
Okay.
that would align with what I
What
believe.
about pills? Can you plan B?
Pills,
Hmm.
like to prevent that from happening in the
Yeah,
first place.
basically, no, no, no. So basically, they're really, 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 really early in. They could take a pill to terminate the pregnancy. Irma says, "Hi, Maminder."
I don't
Yeah,
know about
hi.
that. I don't necessarily agree with that. If they're
Well,
already
the
pregnant,
Supreme
so
Court just legalized it. They actually just very recently allowed it. It's okay.
yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that. But like before pregnancy, yeah, I do. That I think it is okay to use protection, as you will, uh, before pregnancy, but not after, because that baby is already made. There's not is already
Well, so again,
potentially.
this pill, what it does is that it terminates a pregnancy. So that the baby has already is already fertilized and in the uterine wall.
Yeah, I
And
disagree
so
with that.
so you can take a pill to actually terminate that. So you disagree with that as well.
Yeah, because that is falls under the category of abortion.
Okay. So do you feel that if people have access to abortions that life gets better?
No, and that has actually been proven to like
Really?
if they have actually no, I think I misunderstood your question. I might have misunderstood. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, yeah. Do you think that when people have access to abortion that life gets better?
When they have access to abortion, well, it depends if they use it. I mean,
No,
let's
yeah,
say they let
I'm not asking if they're using it or not. I'm asking is does life get better if they have
um
access to an abortion?
uh I would say no, and let me provide a reason why.
Okay.
In people who have abortions, right? It doesn't it's not it doesn't affect their mental health in a positive way at all. And there's no evidence to provide that it does.
Do you think that there's any positive metric?
Uh, of aborting the baby,
Mhm.
no, you just terminate a potential life. So I don't
None.
believe in that.
You can't think of any.
If you would want to enlighten me with a
Yeah.
positive, positive effect of killing a potential life, then
Yeah.
yeah, you go ahead and do that.
Sure. So it decreases poverty. It increases educational outcome. It decreases drug use, and it decreases violent crime as well as petty theft. All of those are
Okay,
proven.
so I'm going to start with the first one. You said it decreases poverty. Um, that is if you keep the baby. You can put it up for adoption. That's a very good possibility. You can do that. The second one was what?
The putting it up for adoption doesn't decrease poverty. That increases poverty.
You're talking about poverty with the person who had the baby because you have to care for the baby.
When you have a baby that then grows up to become 18 years old, they are now a person and a citizen in society. And it is very likely that sociologically speaking, they don't do very well because they've spent their entire life in the foster system.
Better than being killed, I would say.
Well, no, what I think is that I think people should have babies when they're ready.
Yeah, and people choose not to, and that is the consequence they
That's
must
their
behold.
choice. What's the problem?
You just said
That
people
still
have
means less poverty.
you still said babies or people have babies when they're not ready, and I said that's their
Yeah.
choice, and you go, yeah, uh, that is their choice, and they must uphold the consequences. Which I don't think there is a
Whoa,
consequence.
wait, what?
You're
What?
bringing a baby into the world. I just said you must uphold the, I should say, quote unquote consequence, because I don't believe in a consequence
Are
of
you
having a baby.
arguing for a consequence to having a child?
No, I just said no. I
You're
literally
not
just said
arguing that.
no. I said quote unquote consequences because I don't believe that there is consequences.
So, okay, let's say that a girl at 15 fooled
Yep.
around one day and
Yep.
then is now pregnant.
Yep.
They should carry that baby to term. Why?
Yep. Because that's their choice, bro. That they chose to do that knowing what could happen. Now, when they go through those 9 months, right? They go through those 9 months. They have the baby. They can't uh um financially aid, right? They don't have the financial aid to keep the baby. So what do? They put it up for adoption, right? And a newborn baby is very likely to get adopted. Okay, they're not just going to be an orphan, right? They're going to be in a new home.
You don't know
It's not
that.
how
In
I
fact,
do.
plenty of
It's
foster children do not get adopted.
but you're you're not. This
Also,
isn't
you're
this
forcing
isn't
a
a baby.
15-year-old to have a baby. They
What do they
ruin their
do?
entire body for the rest of their life over that.
And they chose to do that knowing the
So
consequences,
you
or not
think
knowing
that
the
they
consequences
should
of that.
have a consequence? This is why I was flabbergasted earlier. You said that you're not interested in a retribution, but when I hear you talk, it sounds like you're arguing in favor of retribution here. And this is at the consequence of a living person that then has to live the rest of their life through this consequence that they themselves didn't cause.
They did because they
The
decided
baby
to get
chose? Did the baby
No,
choose? Did the baby choose
that's
to
not what
go
I'm
into
arguing
foster
against.
care?
No, but what are
No, they
you
didn't choose, did they?
but what are you arguing against? I don't understand. How was that prove?
That point is that increases poverty. That makes life more miserable for people. It makes life worse. You're making the argument that it doesn't make life worse, but it does.
I would highly disagree with you, and the reason
What? Is
being
more
that
poverty good?
uh okay, so it's better than not
Is
living.
more poverty good?
You're making the assumption. It's not. This is not. So before you say it's a
Listen,
yes or no question,
Cole,
it's not a yes or no question. Now, let me finish. Let me finish. I always let you finish. You gotta let me finish. Okay. It's not. It's good compared to being terminated in the womb. Now, on the whole,
that's
or not
wrong.
on the whole, no, that's wrong. It's better to
Yeah, let me give you an
be
example.
killed.
So you're at
It's better to be
15 years
killed.
old, you get pregnant, right? And then
Yep.
you decide, or let's say that we live in your world and we just don't allow abortions whatsoever. That girl has to have a child. Because they have a child, the probability of them having another child in the future is much lower because they already have a child. They're not going to be interested in having another child. And so that mother will then spend the rest of their life likely dropping out of school, likely having to not go to college and just basically work a job in order to help pay for her kid. And then hopefully, the dad will be present, but there's a very strong possibility that they won't be. The point is that it's going to be a lot. And then the dad themselves, they would have to likely pay child support. And then on top of that, the mother is just basically going to be struggling. And then that girl doesn't actually get to have any education. And so the kid basically ends up having a lower educational standard because the mother never got to go to college. As opposed to they abort at 15, and then that girl goes off to college, gets to be 29 years old, and then goes, okay, you know what? I think I want to have a baby now that I am ready and I have a degree. And then they actually have a degree, and then they can pay for a child and take care of the child, and then they live in a loving home. Do you understand the difference?
You're making the assumption that if the first hypothetical you said was that if they have the baby, they automatically get poor, which is true if you keep the baby. That's why you can put it up for adoption.
Cole.
If you put it up for adoption, it's better, right, than killing it.
It's not me making the assumption. It's you.
No, it's not.
Do you know why it's you?
Yeah, no, don't gaslight me
like
that.
Let me finish. Not making the assumption. The reason why it's you, Cole, making the assumption is because I'm the one that's saying that it should be up to a choice. You, however, are saying that it should be up to a bunch of old people that are 1,000 miles away to then make an arbitrary decision as to whether or not this 15-year-old has to carry a child to term.
No, you made the hypothetical, so I'm going to respond to the hypothetical. Okay. Now let me finish, please. So we get to where this point where the 15-year-old has the baby, and you assume now they put it up for adoption. And all of a sudden, she drops out of school and she's now poor. That's not how it works, okay? You put it up for adoption and you continue to go to school. And then you continue throughout college and graduate college if that's the path you want to take. And you get a husband, right? And then you have a baby when you want to have a baby. Now, the other hypothetical was you get an abortion. So the same outcome is possible. The problem is you killed a baby. That's the only difference. Only difference.
No, so the difference is you can choose whether or not that you want to go through with the pregnancy or not, and by looking at judging by socio outcomes, you can see that it is in fact better to have access to abortion than it isn't. Right? You're the one making the argument that a bunch of old people 1,000 miles away should be able to make the arbitrary decision as to whether or not to terminate an unwanted pregnancy. And I am saying that it should be up to the individual who has to go through that in their life to make that decision.
Okay, so would you say if you terminated a baby, first trimester, no one is harmed?
Terminating a baby first trimester?
No one is harmed. Would you say that? Would you agree with that statement?
I mean, I agree that the baby or the fetus is effectively a human, and I suppose you could probably
whoa! Stop there!
I guess, if you wanted.
Stop there! The fetus is a human. Is a human?
Yeah.
And if you get an abortion,
taxonomically speaking, it's a human.
Yeah. So
that's the problem.
Yeah. So then you're killing a human.
Huh? Yeah. The question isn't whether or not you're killing a human. The question is whether or not that you grant that human moral consideration, and you yourself had agreed with that position. Do you understand what I mean by giving moral consideration? Why do you think I said
that's not what I said?
Why do you think I predicated my entire argument under the basis of moral consideration? Because I know it's killing a human. That's fine. It's killing a human.
Whoa, but the question is whether or not that's fine.
We kill humans all the time. What are you talking about?
And that's not okay. So you just say that
it depends on the situation. There's humans that aren't worthy of moral consideration, and this is one of them.
This baby's not worth this. Okay. Let's take a few steps back. Let me just digest your argument real quick. I'm gonna say a statement to you, and I want you to just let me know if you agree with it. Okay. A potential life, a baby in the womb,
fetus,
has no moral fetus. Yeah, who is a human, as you said earlier, or just a couple, probably a minute ago, has no moral consideration.
Prior to 20 weeks, if you want to yeet that thing into space with the help of Elon Musk, go for it, dude.
Okay, so you admitted it's a human,
Make a
but we
literal
can,
firework out of it, bro.
but
Yeah,
we can,
sure.
but we can kill it
I
because it has no
literally
moral
just said that
consideration.
not only can you kill it, you can make a firework out of it.
Okay, so that is just a sick way of thinking actually,
Nope,
because
not at
you're
all.
killing so you don't think just killing a potential human is
Yeah, no, I'm asking whether or not that it is worthy of moral consideration. And you, by
it
the way,
is
also
because it has
agree
the
with the same
potential.
exact thing.
I'm telling you why it has moral consideration is because it has the potential of
Yeah, it
consciousness,
doesn't have a conscious experience, nor did it used to have a conscious
but it
experience. So
has
I
the
grant it zero
potential,
moral consideration. That's how that works.
potential. Okay,
Yeah, I
you're
understand it
comparing.
can in the future have that, but that's fine. They don't want to have that right now. They can deal with it later. You know what could actually end up happening rather than having a 12-week old I'm sorry, a 15 a child at 15 years old, they have that child at 29 when they're prepared. So while they didn't necessarily have Greg, you know who they ended up having? They had Adam. And Adam's much better off than Greg.
Okay, so would you? I'm gonna have a follow-up question after this, so just answer with yes or no if that's what you can do. Um, would you consider a brain dead person and a fetus the same moral capacity or moral consideration?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna use this argument from Socrates in the side chat.
Making a
Making
firework
a
of a brain
firework
dead
of a
person.
brain dead person is not
Obviously,
sick.
I'm being hyperbolic with a firework. Relax.
Well,
Jesus Christ.
what you
But
should be
yes, I
you should
think you
be
should be
pretty
able to terminate it just like as you could. Yeah, obviously we're not going to make fireworks out of fucking fetuses. Like, Jesus fuck.
well, you should be more precise with your words. This is a serious debate.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It okay. It's called hyperbole. I feel like I felt like it's a pretty fun joke, but it okay fine. Yeah, I don't
no, it
literally think
was.
you can make fireworks out of fetuses. Relax. Jesus fuck.
All right. So,
I
um,
can't believe I had to preface that. Like, come on.
if I'm asleep, or no, if you're asleep, can I stab you to death?
What?
Because you're not conscious, right?
You
So
had a
I can just stab
conscious
you to death.
experience before, and you will continue to have a conscious experience in the future. It's completely cogent.
Continue to have a conscious experience in the future,
You will,
right?
yeah, you
A
are checking off
a
both
baby,
boxes, which is my main contentious argument.
a fetus will have a conscious experience in the future.
That's correct, but not before.
Yeah,
That's
but
correct, but not
what does it
before.
matter? Well, what does the before matter? It
Because
has the
if it
potential.
argues for the after, then that makes sense for the before. That logically follows. It's
Uh,
literally morally the
no.
same thing.
So you're saying that a baby who you admitted is a human, right? You admitted that,
Mm-hmm.
and it has this human, right, has the potential to become a life,
Uh huh. Uh huh. Uh huh.
and that's okay to just kill it.
Yeah. Prior to 20 weeks, but yeah.
Well, why prior to 20 weeks?
Because the
What's so much about
cerebral
20 weeks?
column isn't connected till about 20 to 25 weeks. I'm willing to go ahead and concede to 20 weeks, but basically it now possesses a conscious experience at 20 weeks in the sense that the cerebrum has now, I'm sorry, the cerebral column has connected to the actual brain, which then means that it is now consciously experiencing its external sense stimulus.
But at okay, so at 19 weeks, you can just kill the
Yeet
baby.
it into space, baby. Yep.
Okay, so it has. So your argument of it has never had a potential experience, or not potential conscious experience, is I wouldn't say logically coherent because uh once again it can be we're just cycling the same things over
I
and over
get it.
again.
I get it's a potential life, and then it'll become a life in the future. But that's not my concern. My concern is whether or not it matches both criteria. And the second thing is that I don't like the idea of, like, I don't know, a dude like 1,000 miles away coming in and saying whether or not that somebody like needs to carry a baby to term or not. I don't think that's their body to make that decision. That's a shit ton of hormones. That's a whole lot of fucking trouble. And not only that, we have no idea whether or not that child socioeconomically is going to suffer. And I just think that should be up to the parent. And the reason why people often don't have kids is because of socioeconomic conditions. So it makes perfect sense to allow individuals to make that decision for themselves. Very
Okay,
simple.
socioeconomic conditions, right? That's why they don't have the baby because they can't have the baby. They don't have the financial, they don't have
Yep.
they don't have the money to have this baby. So what do? You put it up for adoption. That fixes all your financial
What?
problems.
Yeah, but then you have to suffer for like that full 9 months, and then that child, then you've basically like exchanged all of that economic suffering onto the child. It doesn't make any sense.
No, no, you haven't. You
Yeah, you did.
given it.
Yes, you
You
did.
give
You just put them
what
into
suffering
foster
that you.
home. You just put them into a foster home. There's no
Okay,
guarantee
but
that they
yeah,
will get
that's
adopted.
better than
And I
killing them. That's
promise
better
you,
than killing them.
I promise you, go ahead. And what I want you to do is go to any anti-abortion place and hand out flyers for adoption papers. There won't be a single fucking person signing. I guarantee you. And then the next thing to point out is the amount of abortions that there are actually happening. Adoption is not the answer. I think you have about 6 million people in the foster care system, which, by the way, is already overloaded. And do you know how many abortions that there are on a yearly basis? It's like multiply that number by like 10, dude. It's nowhere close. It cannot handle the numbers you're talking about. What the fuck? I got a player here that wants to fuck with me.
Numbers I'm talking. I've not mentioned a number.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
not
So
mentioned a
so
single
if
number.
you remove all abortions, then that means anybody having a child, right? You have to turn that into literal people. And so because you've just turned that into literal people, that basically means that the entire adoption system now has to account for a huge number of people. And it can't handle that number.
Then fund the adoption system. I don't know what the
What? What? Wait, are you
fund.
arguing for like social safety nets? Stop. I'm getting a chubby. I have never heard a Republican ever argue in favor of a social safety net of any kind
So
for kids. Do you want to get rid of food
you,
stamps?
no. I
Oh,
think
okay, that's good.
people. I think people should. I mean, be as encouraged to get off of them, but they shouldn't getting rid of. I mean, there's no reason that we need to get rid of food stamps. I mean, that's an entirely different argument.
Okay,
But what I'm saying is, you said this is where I'm caught up, is because you said it's a human as a fetus, right? You said that,
yeah,
right? So it's okay to kill it, even though it has. Okay, well, what is your fetish with conscious experience on beforehand? Like, what is so
that's
important
weird.
about that?
That's
What is
really
it so important about that?
that's really weird. Fetish? No, it's not a fetish.
I'm pretty sure it is. You're so caught up
No, no. So what I do is
conscious
that I look
beforehand.
at like I thought about okay, what is it about humans that like you would inherently end up having to care for them, right? And so I thought about it for a bit, right? And the best argument that I was able to conjure is a conscious experience. Because it's like, what is it about a human? Like, think about it, right? If I took a human and let's say, for example, that there was like the possibility of a brain transplant to like a robot or something. I take like my brain and I put it in a robot and then like I think what would people like care about? Would they care about like the useless husk that was my body or would they care about the robot that has like this brain that is able to like communicate just like I used to, you know? And something just thinking about that for a moment makes me go, I think the humans would care for the robot. I think they would because they would be like, okay, that is now me, right? The useless husk that's just meat. It's just a useless meat sack. It doesn't do anything, right? So there's something inherently valuable that we're considering when we're considering the robot with the brain. It's the fact is it's the conscious experience. We look at the experiences and the life they lived and who they were and we go, okay, that's what we find valuable in terms of humans. And so yes, that's why I care about it. Sure.
Okay, so at at fertility, right? When the at fertility, like an hour and a half or something after fertility, all the genes are decided, right? They're decided. So that uh, fetus is who it is. It's everything is whether the heck's gonna have brown hair, blue eyes. whether it's going to be tall, whether it's going to have any disabilities. It's all decided then. And so that would be a life. I mean, I don't know how
I
we
understand
can.
it's a life. The question is whether or not it's worthy of a moral consideration. I understand at
It
conception
is,
it's a life. The question is whether or not you care.
but your logic is saying that it's okay to kill a life.
Yeah. You're also okay with killing somebody on the even though that it's a life.
No, that
You're not?
we have different ideologies on that. I just
Let's
said
say
we were
somebody's
just
going
going
to
over
come
this.
into your house and they're going to
Let me
rape your mother
let,
and that they're
let me
going to say, I'm going to shoot the shit out of your mother if you don't cooperate. But you are hiding and you can make a shot. Are you going to make a shot? I'd make a shot. Would you make a shot?
Yeah, obviously that's not coherent. Well,
But
that's not
wait, that's a
even.
life.
I reject your equivalency.
I
Once
understand.
again,
I understand. I understand that this murderer is not the same as a fetus. I agree with you. It's not. But I'm telling you that you don't give life this inherent value. It depends on the person. It depends on the situation.
we
That's
don't
my
even know
point.
the fetus yet. We don't even
I'm
know
I'm
the fetus
aware. I'm
yet.
aware. I'm aware. I'm just pointing out that I don't grant the fetus moral consideration. However, you do. Okay. And so you don't sit there. You can't lean on the
You
fact that
compared it
it's a
to a
life.
murderer.
You can't stop. You can't lean on the fact that it's a life as being the thing because you grant different moral consideration on different lives. That means that life isn't necessarily what you care about. Do you understand that?
No,
You're not a
it
pacifist
is.
in the
No, let
situation with the
me
aggressive
let me
person.
explain. Let me explain. Let me explain. We give different moral considerations to different people who have different things. I give more moral consideration to, um, I don't know, George Washington than I do Jeffrey Dahmer because I already know what they have done. I know that Jeffrey Dahmer is a murderer, and I know that George Washington isn't, right? But we don't know what the fetus is going to be.
I don't give moral
It could be a,
consideration to any of them because they're both dead.
uh, well, if they were alive and what they did compared to what they did. Um,
Got him. Got him,
no,
boys. We got him.
so
No, no.
so
Okay,
if
I'm
we
sorry.
did, if
Assuming they're alive. Okay.
assuming
Yeah,
they're
yeah. I
alive,
mean, obviously, I give more consideration to George Washington than yeah.
yes, because we know what he has done, and we know that what Jeffrey Dahmer did was obviously, I mean, any sane person would say this that they're that he deserves less moral consideration than George Washington because of things he's done, but we don't know what
Yeah.
the fetus
So
is going
the
to do.
bait. Well, okay, that's fine. That's fine. But stop saying that it's a life. Okay, because you
It
don't
is. You
really
said it was
care.
a
Stop.
life.
Stop. Stop. I understand it's a life. I'm saying you don't grant it moral consideration on the basis that it's a life. Okay, because it appears that even though that because if you can imagine Jeffrey Dahmer is also a life, but you don't give moral consideration to Jeffrey Dahmer because of the bad things he did. Okay. And so it's not necessarily a life that you care about. It's the fact it could be like the potentiality, for example. That would probably be more accurate. It's not life. That's not what you apparently care about. Because if you did care about it, you would give just as much moral consideration towards Jeffrey Dahmer.
That's not true because let me explain. Because Jeffrey Dahmer killed people. He took away life.
This
So
is going over your head.
it's not, and
It
I'll
is.
explain.
It really is.
No, so when we discuss whether a fetus has moral consideration, you say you're comparing. You were comparing it to someone who comes into my house and um, threatening to shoot my mom or something. I don't know what the hell you're comparing it to, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's
So
just
the
that's
point that I was trying to make is that you don't you don't give moral consideration on the basis that it's a life. You're giving it moral consideration on the basis of potentiality, right? Because the life, the fetus, you don't know what life it's going to have.
yeah,
Okay.
correct.
And so you give it more moral consideration than Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes,
Okay. So it's not the life. Stop saying it's a life.
it's the potentiality
Yeah.
of a life.
Okay. So, okay. Let me ask you this. Let's say Worst case scenario, there is a crack whore. Okay, all they want is the next score of rock. They don't give a shit about this baby. Okay, they don't give a shit about babies. All they want is their next hit of rock. Okay, and the way that they do this is they're kind of out of money, and the way that common for crack smokers, this crack smoker realizes that, hey, I can actually get another score of rock if I tell my dealer that I would have sex with them. Okay. And again, they're not really concerned about STDs or babies or none of that shit. All they want to do is that next score of rock, right? And so they have sex with the drug dealer, and then there they go. They got their next score of rock. Okay. A few months down the line, they realize that they're pregnant. Okay. But all they really want is that next score of rock, right? And they just really just want to get rid of this fucking baby and just be done with it. Do you think that this person should have to carry the baby to term?
Uh, yeah.
All right,
Okay.
what's the potentiality of that baby surviving?
I would not know, but it's better than just it. There's a
Really?
more
I
bigger.
would I would venture to say if there's no access to abortive care, it's zero. The answer is zero. This baby will be on the side of the road and will be dog food. That's what I think will happen.
Put it up for adoption is what I'm saying. It's
No,
better
no,
than
no.
with the legs.
They're not going to bother. Do you understand? They will literally carry a baby to term in a crack den, and then a dog will eat the placenta and the baby. And
Uh,
nobody will be the wiser. The answer is it's a zero probability, right? There's no potentiality in this baby. Why not just end the fucking
no,
suffering?
that's where I believe you to be wrong. Is there's a more of a chance of it living
So what
when
would you
it comes
do?
out of the womb, than it is when it is terminated
And then
in the
has like
womb.
a
That is
crack
just
whore mom for the rest of their life?
it's a bigger this is a it's facts. I don't know how you can not believe this to be factual. It's they have a better chance of living when
I'm
they come
dying
out
of
of the womb
cringe.
than they how is this there's just facts. I don't know how.
Why? I don't understand.
Why? Okay, if you don't understand, let me dumb it down for you. Uh if a baby exits the womb, right? And they are now they're a person, right? They're accounted for the I don't know how to explain it, but they're out of the womb, right? If they're abandoned, they have a higher chance of living than
Uh,
a baby who has been terminated in the womb.
Bro,
That is just
I
logic.
wouldn't, dude,
That's logic.
honestly, if I was consciously aware as that baby, I would be like, dude, put a gun in my fucking mouth now. Are you out of your fucking mind? I am not going to spend a minute with a crack whore mom, dude. It's going to be a
You wouldn't
fucking
because you would have been
nightmare.
abandoned. You would have been abandoned.
Correct. Yeah, so like,
So
so dead. The baby is
if
dead.
you no, it's not.
Dead
You're
at
missing.
birth.
No, God, let me once again explain this to you. If a baby is abandoned on, like you said this, the side of the road, do you think people are just going to drive by and leave it there?
Some people don't even notice. Again, they're in a crack den. They're in a crack den. They're inside somewhere. They don't, and guess what? Ain't nobody give a shit about that baby in that crack den.
It's better than
You don't have
killing the
random
baby.
people just walking by, walking their dog, and looking at this little crack baby on the side of the road. This is likely somewhere private in an alleyway, and they throw it in the garbage. They try to smother it to make it dead, so that way it doesn't cry. Shit like that, like horrible shit.
Okay,
That's like not like it
how many
sucks. Like it's
times? Okay,
awful.
you brought
Why
up
force
numbers.
this to term?
You brought up numbers. How many times do you think it's going to happen?
What? I'm saying that happens by not
No,
having access to not giving access to contraceptives, by not giving not teaching basic sex ed, by not giving people the services they need. There's a reason.
basic sex
Why
ed
do
is
you
being
think the
taught in
government?
schools.
Why do you think the government actually subsidizes Planned Parenthood? Why do you think they do that?
Basic sex ed has been taught in schools, so that's a
Why do you
logical
think
follow. Yeah.
they do that? Why
Do
does
what?
Planned Parenthood do that? Why are they? Why?
Do
I'm
what?
sorry. Why does the government subsidize Planned Parenthood?
Um, I well, I don't understand the. You're gonna have to expand on that because I don't really have an answer for
What
you.
is Planned Parenthood to you?
Couldn't tell you. Enlighten me.
Planned Parenthood is the area where they allow abortion access. And the abortion access is paid for by taxpayers. Actually, hold on. Let me rephrase that. It is not directly paid for by taxpayers, but by donors, right? But that there are some subsidies, government subsidies, not directly to abortion, but to other administrative costs that are paid for by the government, right? And so I'm asking you, why do you think they pay for that, such a thing?
Uh, how about you tell me? You're making this argument. You tell me.
Because of the societal benefit that's reaped from it. The
Okay.
reality is that by allowing people to choose as to when and where they want to have their baby, they end up having better decisions. They can plan their life out in such a way where they don't have to necessarily suffer, aka having a child at 15 versus 29 with a degree.
Okay. With an abortion,
Yeah.
I assume you know how a baby is aborted, right? They get.
No, enlighten me. I have no idea.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
I'm a joke. That's a
So
joke.
they
That's a joke.
get.
That's a joke.
Okay. So it's not pleasant, right? It's not pleasant at all. So you're saying that is better than the potentiality of a life.
What? Say that again.
In a Cragton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh uh a baby getting aborted is not a pleasant way to go.
Yeah, I get it.
So yeah. So it's what I'm saying is it's better for the possibility
Well,
of living, right, than it
but
is
but
for
but
that
what you're
egregious death.
not. But what you're doing is not allowing people to make that choice, but rather a politician or a Supreme Court justice 1,000 miles away make the arbitrary decision as to whether or not that this person must be forced to carry a baby to term. That's the problem I have. Okay, because at the end of the day, me, I'm very much pro-choice when it comes to policy. But like me personally, I like to assume responsibility for myself. And if I got a girl pregnant, I would say, let's, please, carry the baby to term, and then, I will do my best to take care of it. We'll make it work out. Because I like to be personally responsible and it would not be the biggest deal for me. But like, that's not necessarily true for everybody, right? There could be a kid that's just going through high school and they made a dumb decision because kids don't have their prefrontal cortex fully developed. And so they make a bad decision. I don't think that means that that person should then suffer the rest of their life for it. That's,
There won't be
that's,
suffering the rest of their life for it. They could
dude,
put
it's,
the
it's a
baby up for
struggle.
adoption.
Even at 25, it's a struggle.
You're saying suffering for the rest of your life when that is just not true.
What? Yeah,
Okay?
no,
The
that
baby,
is true. The
no,
probability
the,
of
baby,
suffering financially is a lot higher having children than
the
not.
baby can be put up for adoption.
What? Then the child,
What?
then you've just passed off those losses over onto that child. You have no idea whether or not that child will be able to adopt. And there's also the fact that the adoption agencies can't uphold that many children. If you assumed a life begins at conception, you better multiply the foster care system by 10. And then, by the way,
Okay,
just so you know,
okay.
everybody who's fucking pro-life doesn't fucking want to adopt. There's so few people that actually want to adopt. So it's not an
That
end all be all
that
discussion.
that I would here's how I would go about this. I would um here's how the abortion would be banned. Pro-life would essentially uh
Socrates
win, I
says
guess is
one
what I
to
say.
two
But
million in the U.S. waiting on the list to adopt. How many abortions are there a year?
okay, so
How many
let
abortions?
me, yeah, let me also finish. how I would go about this is banning abortion, right? And
Let's see.
then proceeding to fund these adoption clinics and orphanages because that's where these babies will go because these high school kids who can't take care of a baby will be forced to put them up for adoption. And I don't really see a problem with that at all because if you um, don't put it up for adoption, um, then you will have to like a crackdown, right? You said they're not going to put it up for adoption. No one cares about that baby. That's just child neglect. Okay, that happens now.
Yeah, I
Okay,
agree.
so
So like I think we should reduce that child neglect, don't you think?
yeah, and it's not that it will be
I think
reduced.
it should be
Okay,
like up to a choice and not like some random ass fucking politician or person who who in the Supreme Court to make that decision.
that's 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 child neglect. It's not
No,
it's
no,
not
no, no, no.
pro
So
life
here's the
pro
thing, right?
choice.
The
It's just
question
child
is whether or
neglect.
not that you grant it moral consideration. And we've talked about this portion. I get that you disagree with it, but I'm saying that like by having the moral consideration at such a high bar, then you actually make life worse, not better. A lot worse. Not a little bit worse, a lot a bit worse.
Yeah, I actually agree with Christian anarchist in the side chat. He says we shouldn't kill children because it's practical. Okay, you yourself you remember this.
So I
You
just want to be
said
clear. Why why do you uphold particular principles?
why do I uphold
Yeah. Do
particular
you uphold
principles? Because
principles for principle's sake, or does it has like does it have like an underlying root to it, as to like why that like you consider this principle to be important, so you uphold it?
because I believe it to be right. I don't know
So you
morally
say
right.
that principle good because principle good.
Principle good because principle good. I believe the principle is right. Okay, so that's
Yeah,
why I
that's
believe in
yeah,
those
right
principles.
equal good. And so you're saying principle good because principle good. So here, let me help you out. I got you. So what I consider to be good is whether or not that it has better outcomes. Okay, and so when there is a principle that we care for human life. By the way, I'm very much in favor of caring for human life. But then I'm asking, why do I care for human life? And the reason why I care for human life is that I want people to have better outcomes. If the caring of the human life ends up in worse outcomes, then I would not be in favor of that thing. Okay. And so in this situation, when you're talking about the individual choice of of that person, I think that that should be up from individual to individual in a discussion with their doctor, not a random politician 1,000 miles away. So I'm asking
Uh,
you, why do you uphold that principle?
because the root of this is I believe that life is the absolute greatest gift you can receive. And do you disagree with that?
Um,
That is a core point to my belief. That is a core belief that
is that stemming
um,
from religion?
no, I'm not religious. I just
Okay.
believe that life is the greatest gift you can get.
Uh, okay. Yeah. So, like, would you say that, like, if I gave you a life where you're forced in a cage your whole life, would you rather be dead, or would you rather just live in that cage your whole life?
What
Me
is
personally, I'd rather be dead. Just kill me. Just literally just end it.
you're making that point would be this fetus is just going to live in the cage for the rest of his life. It's not okay, so you can't use that
No,
argument.
but it could end up dying of malnourishment because it's in a crack den. It could also end up
That is
in
child
poverty for
neglect.
basically its entire life and is now just like a schizophrenic homeless man underneath the bridge that nobody cares about.
That isn't
Right?
child neglect that happens today.
Huh?
I said that's child neglect
No,
that
no, no.
happens
So
today.
so you could take the child to the foster care system and then they end up being the homeless schizophrenic man in the underneath the bridge.
Yeah, I'm looking to at the National Library of Medicine. Abortion. What I'm extrapolating from this is that abortion reduces abortion and mental health. it's not good. If you get an abortion, mental health goes down statistically.
I mean, I
There's an
guess I can
81%.
agree with that, but I
There's an
think that that
81.
needs to be a decision that's made by the doctor and the person that has to go take that baby to term. That's the difference, right? You think it should be a politician 1,000 miles away, and I think it should be up to the person to make that decision.
Oh, but you're not here. I'll link it so you can look at it if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to, um, if you and don't say it's not a viable source because it is. It's the National
That's fine.
um, Library of Medicine. So if you get an abortion, you are statistically more likely. It's 81% is what it says. Increased risk of mental health problems.
Sure.
Okay, that that would so if like you that would correlate to the argument of you saying that if you have a baby at 15 get an abortion, there's an 81% risk 81% increased risk of mental health problems. Okay, so that would actually um damage you more than just putting the baby up for adoption.
Do you think that there are other outcomes,
Well, here are the outcomes. Here are
like
the
reducing crime, reducing poverty, increasing educational standards, reducing drug
okay.
use?
It reduces crime and reduces drug
Mhm.
use because there are less people. Okay, that is not that is not a
No,
correlation
no. So
to
having a child,
abortion.
I don't know if you knew this, but having a child increases the rate of poverty. Okay. Because it's hard to take care of a child in a first world country. Okay.
So you
And
put it
because
up
it's
for
hard.
adoption. That's what I'm
Yeah, no,
saying.
no. But then you've just passed off those losses onto the child. Do you understand the problem?
No, because
And
this
also the
you
foster
you
care
also were not
system
understanding.
can't handle all of that.
You didn't understand what I said earlier. I said that we would if you put the baby up for adoption and we ban abortion, we would um in turn fund these orphanages and adoption clinics is what I was saying, like immensely because we did ban abortion.
Yeah,
That's
I
what I'm
still
saying.
think it
So
needs to be up to the decision of each individual to each individual, not some random politician 1,000 miles away. Hot
okay,
take.
again, there's it wouldn't be up to the abortion would be up to a politician. However,
What?
the
Is it
choice
not?
the choice of having the choice of keeping the baby as your own would be your choice because you can put it up for adoption.
Yeah, I mean, I see you keep saying adoption, but that's not the answer. It's literally
Uh,
impossible your answer without having to fund the shit out of it when this can just
I
be so
just
much
said
easier.
fund it. I just said
I
fund
get
it.
it.
Did
It
you not
just I
hear
don't
me?
think it's adequate. I don't think it's adequate.
It is. We have enough money to fund it.
This is also an assumption, right? That you think that these women can honestly, they basically have to ruin their body for their entire life because the decision that they made when their prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed. It's
It
absolutely
isn't. It isn't. It
insane
isn't
to me.
ruining your. It isn't ruining your body as much as you think it is. People have
What? It
multiple babies and they're
absolutely
fine.
can ruin your body. What do you mean?
It can, just like the baby
It
can
changes
have
your
a great
body
life.
forever. The hormones are different. You've got stretch marks all over the place. I think that should be up to I think that needs to be up to a decision made by the doctor and the person who has to have the child, not a random politician 1,000 miles away.
Again, the choice of keeping the baby would not be up to a random politician.
Yeah, it is. By restricting abortion, that's literally what you are doing.
Um, sorry, I wasn't listening. Can you repeat that? I had to talk to someone else.
By making a law saying you can't have an abortion, that means it is literally up to a politician 1,000 miles away. That's what that is.
I said that would be up to said politician a
Yeah,
thousand miles away.
I think that's terrible.
But keeping the baby Keeping it as your
I
own
think that's
is
dependent.
up
I
to
think
you.
it could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. But you know what? That would be an argument for my side. That means that you can have the choice. Do you understand that I'm not arguing for compulsory abortion?
Yeah, I do understand that.
Rock
You
spinner.
literally said yourself. You said yourself that you
What? What?
if
What?
you no, let me I'm about to tell you. You said yourself that if you um got a girl pregnant, you would advocate for her to keep it to full pregnancy, and you say you would take care of it as your own. Like you said that, right? I know what you're advocating for. You're just advocating for the choice,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I know what you're arguing for.
Uh-huh. And
And you just said you didn't. You just said, "Do you even know what I'm arguing for?" I responded to you, "Yes, I do know what you're arguing for."
yeah, yeah. So you know that I'm not arguing for compulsory abortion.
Yeah, just said
So
that.
so I think you bringing up situations or different situations where it could be good for one person or bad for another person.
Never said it could be
That
bad. Never said it could be bad.
you're acknowledging my positions is like, hey, these are bad situations, right?
Because
Crack
it's
crack
child
baby's not a good.
neglect.
Yeah, I don't care. What do you
You don't
mean?
care.
That
What
the
do you mean
point
you
is,
don't
is it
care?
happens. What do you
Yes, it's
like?
gonna
Oh,
happen.
this is child neglect. Oh, wow, good. The baby's saved now. Oh man, man, you helped it, Cole. Now that we know it's child neglect, the crack mother. Now that she's gonna be like, oh shit, this is child neglect. I gotta get my shit together. Let me get out of here. What are you talking about? It's a
You
crack
understand?
mother.
You understand when
What?
you understand when people have kids, their entire life view changes about children.
That is an argument for choice. Do you
No, no, it's
understand?
not.
Because
No,
like
it's
there's
not. No, it's
situations
not.
where it's
No, it's not.
good and there's situations where it's bad. But you're
No,
making the
no.
argument that always bad and you always need to make sure that you're having the baby no matter what cuz that always good. Jesus fuck.
It's a life. Okay.
All right.
You're arguing moral consideration.
You are killing me
That's
here.
just
So,
no. I'm
I'm going
not.
to let you have the last word. I'll let you go for it and then I'm going to move on to the next person, okay? Go for it.
All right. Abortion is wrong because it's a potential life. You're killing a baby who has a potential life. So yeah, that's about it.
Good talk, Cole.